After our escapades through Bolivia, it was now time to take the biggest part of our journey from La Paz to Lima. We would do this by bus, right across two great countries. La Paz is a great city, and we stayed at the Rendezvous Hotel for the first few nights that we stayed here. On our very first night we arrived, the landlord didn't have a room available for us, so he graciously offered us a room in his very own house, right across the street. The Rendezvous is a great place to set yourself up and set your bearings and get organised to go and explore the city of La Paz. This afternoon we're organising a walking tour just to see these great sights of this world's highest city. La Paz sits at almost 4,000 metres above sea level. If you're going to do a walking tour in La Paz, you have to do it with Red Hats. They are one of the best tour groups in the area. They're a volunteer group and they'll take you through the older part of the city. Where to start your Red Hats tour? Go and look for the old San Pedro prison. Completing our walking tour at the juice bar, we decided we'd explore a little bit more of the city on our own. There's great sights to see, from the birds in the park to the cable car, which is relatively new and has only been operating for around 18 months. Each journey costs around 30 cents, which is a lot cheaper than the one we rode in Singapore at $26. Each line of the cable car takes around 17 minutes to complete, which is far faster than in rush hour traffic of an hour. This is what it takes for the average commuter to come from the Altiplano, which is the higher part of the city, down into the valley floor. At 17 minutes, you save a lot of time, and you get some great views as you look around the city. From favelas to mansions, it seems that La Paz blends both together in this metropolitan city. It's huge, it's massive. You can get lost here for days, but we had other places to travel, so it was soon time to say goodbye to the city of La Paz. Rising early, the great team at Rendezvous organised our breakfast. We were about to get organised to go from La Paz to Puno, and we'd cross the border into Peru, but along the journey we'd take a couple of stops. I thought we were going to take a long ride, but we suddenly stopped at San Pedro de Cuina for a lake crossing. This is where our bus was placed onto a barge and we were all put onto small boats and shipped across the lake. This was our first taste of Lake Titicaca, the world's highest lake, sitting at 4,000 metres above sea level. From here it's only a short bus ride to the city of Copacabana. This is where we would spend the next few days and enjoy some of the great scenery. Copacabana, what an awesome small town, and we were going to stay in one of the greatest little hotels this place has to offer. The high altitude here really does take your breath away, and we struggled to climb from the shores of the lake up to where our hotel was. As we climbed higher and higher up the streets, Lake Titicaca took on a whole new perspective. The city itself nestled against its shores. Since we'd arrived a day earlier, the hotel that we were going to be staying in didn't have a room available, so they checked us in to the hotel right next door. La Cupola is a great little place to stay, and up the front they have a small courtyard and park area where you can go and rest in hammocks, and the alpacas are oh so friendly. La Cupola also boasts one of the greatest restaurants in town. You have to go there for breakfast. It has the best apple pancakes I've ever tasted. The view from our Santorini dome room was just incredible. Right above the bed was a massive domed ceiling. Although to get into our room was a bit of a climb. You had to climb up a ladder and through a door which was actually in the ceiling of the hallway. This afternoon we would take a boat ride to an island called the Island of the Sun. This is where the Incan culture actually started. The boat ride out here was a little bit bumpy, but the hardest part was getting used to the altitude. But the Island of the Sun will take your breath away. There is a small community out here and several places you can stay. Had we organised things a little bit differently, we may have stayed here for the night. Walking around on the island, you're ever mindful of the massive amount of effort that would have been taken to build some of these terraces that are here. The stonework, the buildings, it's all still here, echoing to a distant past. Though it looks serene, the temperature here was not exactly pleasant. It was cold. Not only was it cold, but that altitude was really playing havoc with Elena. She suffered most of the walk, but endured it like a trooper. Finding our way back to the boat, we wandered through the village and got a little bit lost. The roads sort of head off in all different directions. So we decided that we'd take the donkey road, which was the steepest and roughest path to get back down to the wharf. Making our way back to dry land, we decided we'd go and check out the old Copacabana Cathedral that sits at the top end of town by the square. It's an interesting church building built by the Spanish, absolutely stunning to view. Lana wanted to keep this place as a surprise for me. Anyone who knows about us knows that we love natural building and building with raw materials, something a little bit quirky and something a bit different. So booking us into Las Olas Hostel for the next few nights was just a real treat. We stayed in a roundhouse and absolutely loved it. We hardly left the place. And why would you, when everything is set out the way this place is set out? The view from the window in the lounge was spectacular out over the lake. This is some place you just think is in a storybook, but believe me, it's real, and we loved every minute of it. We'd now be leaving Copacabana and the lake and heading across the border into Peru. First stop was to head towards the Reed Islands on Lake Titicaca. This is a massive area where people have built their lives, living literally on top of the reeds that grow in the lake. Dressing in period costume, we got to know a little bit more about the Reed Islands. We met one bloke here who has never left the islands in his entire life, and he's in his 40s. The Reed Islands came about as the Spanish invaders came to Puno. The local people who didn't want to work hard for the taxes escaped and started building on the Reed Islands. Finally, we're in the city of Cusco, known as the City of Churches and also the gateway to Machu Picchu. It seemed the whole town had come out to meet us, as there was local festivities in the village square. There were hundreds of people around. Even though the day was a little bit overcast, it didn't dampen the moods of the people in the town. There's really only one way to see the city of Cusco, and that's to take a walking tour. The city has so many things to see, you just won't make sense of it all if you're not with a guide who can explain the intricacies of this great little town. That green door was where the people were taken in the Spanish Inquisition. This area was original walls from the Incan Empire, and as our guide explained, there are hidden secrets in the walls, pictures of pumas, snakes, and other animals that were of the time. Walking up the spine of the Puma, which is the main road, to the top of the town, I discovered these great little gems. I love Volkswagens. They're just beautiful no matter how you look at them. Speaking of beauty, the beauty of the city as you look out from the cathedral at the top of the town gives a way to a beautiful view of what is truly a magnificent city, the city of Cusco. Our guide wanted to take us to one more place, to this elderly gentleman's place who made guitars and traditional flutes. It was absolutely incredible to see him play these magnificent instruments in his own home. Today we would board a train bound for the small town of Aguascalientes. This is at the base of the famous Machu Picchu, but we took in the scenery as we headed along in the train with a glass top roof. Initially, I thought our room at Hotel Mystico was going to be really noisy as we were perched high above the river, but the bed there was the most comfortable in the whole journey. The following morning we woke to a cloud-covered, misty-looking mountain area. It was really gloomy, but we made our way up to the most famous place in Peru, Machu Picchu. Paying a little extra, we decided that we would climb up to Machu Picchu mountain, which is a viewing area high above the original ruins. As we climbed, we realized how tough it would have been for the Incan people to build these great monuments. Even we too suffered with the altitude. Leaving the high altitude of Machu Picchu behind, we now headed towards Arequipa and back towards the coast. Our little hotel in Arequipa was also used as a cooking school. Unfortunately, we arrived too late to book in for the classes. However, our stay here was absolutely spectacular. Not only did they have great lawns and great cooking and great food, they also had a little house guest that would come and meet us each morning for breakfast. I'd love to have spent more time chatting to our little four-legged friend, but unfortunately I wanted to go and explore the city of Arequipa, also known as the White City. Arequipa is surrounded by a lot of volcanic activity, and the town itself was originally built from silica, hence the name the White City. And once again, I'm distracted. Volkswagens are everywhere. I just gotta love them. As with most cities, we've found the easiest way to really discover the heart and true soul of a place is to take a walking tour, and it was the same in Arequipa. By going on a walking tour, we discovered some of the great architecture that this city really has. It's hidden away, tucked down little laneways that if you don't know where you're going, you won't find it. So our advice? Book a walking tour and really get to explore and know cities of the world. On our tour, we were able to get up close with llamas once again. We absolutely love these little animals. They're so cute to look at. We saw how the wool was processed and how it's turned and made into fine clothing. We also learned that there's a massive difference in the quality of the clothes from depending on which animal you were to take the wool. The tour ends when you visit a small chocolate shop, and why wouldn't you stop and buy? In most places we've found cheap meals, mainly consisting of rice and corn, but here we managed to find a small Turkish restaurant. Settling in for our last night in Arequipa, it only seemed fitting to relax in the garden and drink the signatory beer that is named after this great place. Rising early this morning, we caught a bus to take ourselves out to a town called Chivay. It's the gateway to the Colca Canyon. The Colca Canyon is the deepest canyon in the world, and taking this road was going to see us rise to the highest point that we've been to in South America, a total altitude of 4,800 meters above sea level. With a quick comfort stop on the way, it wasn't long before we descended down into the valley of the Colca Canyon and to the small but beautiful town of Chivay. As we wouldn't be taking our tour to the Colca Canyon and searching for the condors until tomorrow, we decided that we would take a small walk with our bus driver around the valley floor and see the irrigation systems that have been put in place for the terraces that survive and provide agriculture for the local people. It's in these ancient valleys that the dead are buried of the local people. What a great way to end the day, soaking in the local hot springs. I met this great guy here who was travelling from the bottom of South America back to the USA on a motorcycle. This is the great thing with travelling. You meet some amazing people and you stay in some pretty amazing places. And our hotel in Chivay was no different. It was an old monastery that had been converted some years ago and now attracts tourists from all over the world. One word of caution though, duck before you leave the room. This morning once again saw us rising early as we were heading off into the Colca Canyon. Stopping first at a small town called Yanqui, we were going to see some traditional dancing and to check out the local handcrafts. It was here that I was lucky enough to get up close and personal with an Andean eagle. They are the most gorgeous birds and yet so powerful in their claws. You don't want to move in a hurry. You don't want these guys pecking on your ear, giving you a little taste of what they can do. Moving deeper into the valley, we'd finally reached what we'd come here to see, the amazing condors. Condors are the world's largest bird, and some of them have a wingspan of over 2 meters. Sadly, we didn't get a chance to see many of the condors, as they proved elusive, so it was back to Chivay before heading off to our next destination. It's time to hit the road. This time we're off to a small town that I can hardly pronounce. It's a place called Huacachina. You'd be forgiven for finding Huacachina. It's hard to see on a map. It's a tiny little oasis just out of the town of Ica. It seems crazy when you look out the bus window. You think one minute you're in a desert, the next minute it's all lush and green. And this is the beauty of Peru. It surprises you on every turn. Meanwhile, Elena just sits back and enjoys the journey. There are some places in Peru that you just have to check out, and the Nazca Lines is one of those places. Stopping on the side of the road, we found a small platform and a few trinkets of souvenirs. We climbed up the platform so that we could have a view down onto the Nazca Lines. They're strange. No one knows who put them there. No one really cleans them. The lines just stay clean and the winds of time never settle dust onto these magnificent lines. As our time is short and we really need to get to Huacachina, we're soon piled back onto the bus and heading back down the highway. Huacachina. It can be remembered for 3 things: sand dunes, the beautiful little oasis, and this was also the place where I got horribly drunk on 2 bottles of Captain Morgan rum, our tour group and our tour guide, who just kept on encouraging me to drink all night long. If there's one thing you have to do when you're in Huacachina, is to take out one of these dune buggies and go for a ride in the sand dunes. It's an amazing experience, although not so cool when you're horribly hungover. For anyone who's been following our journeys, that red cap that I'm wearing has travelled with me through several countries now. But it was here that, unfortunately, travelling with these great dune buggies, I lost the hat. We went over one sand dune and guess what? The hat just blew off and disappeared. It's now lost to the sands of time in the deserts of Huacachina. So if anyone finds it, you're more than welcome to return it. If you've never tried sandboarding, this is the place to try it. The dunes are impressive, they're huge, and with guides taking care of you every step of the way, making sure you're doing it correctly, the chances of getting hurt are next to none. It's a great way to spend the afternoon. The best time to visit the sand dunes is in the evening, just as the sun's going down. You catch some really awesome sunsets and the views against the dunes are just spectacular. I really didn't want to leave, but considering I was seriously hungover from the night before and our serious drinking games, I didn't do any of the sandboarding. I just stood here and watched and took in the scenery. And as you can imagine, I got some great photos. But if you thought our journey was over, far from it, as we head off to the small seaside town of Paracas. It's from Paracas that you can take a boat out to Balastas Island, which is a wildlife sanctuary. It's kind of a poor man's Galapagos, but at a fraction of the price, it's definitely worth the journey. It takes about 45 minutes by boat to get out to this small island, which is covered in sea lions and sea life. I was still a bit queasy from the night before. I'd seemed to develop some small stomach bug that I think I picked up from Huacachina. This posed a small problem as there was no toilets on the boat and there was no way we were allowed off to relieve ourselves. So it was hang on till we got home. I love how Peru can still be so unrestricted. Gollywogs are banned back home. Our Peru Hop tour guide wanted to take us to one more place before we would be bound for Lima, and that was Playa Roja. Its red sanded beaches are absolutely incredible, and this made for a great place for us to take a group photo. It's not long before we're bound for the last leg of our journey, as we head for Lima, Peru's capital. Before embarking on our walking tour, we stop in Kennedy Park and hang out with the cool cats that seem to have taken this place and adopted it as their home. The one thing we've discovered while taking this journey through South America is that walking tours are definitely a do when you're traveling around all of these great places. They give you so much insight into what each place has, and Lima was no exception. As we walked around the streets, we got to see the architecture that the Spanish have left here from years back. There are some places in Lima, however, that you really don't want to travel into, and crossing this bridge was as far as we would go. Our walking tour guide advised us that on the other side of the bridge there is a high potential of being robbed. As we continued our walking tour back through the main square in the city, we were taken past the original post office and also past one of the oldest bars in all of Lima. When in Peru, be sure to try some pesco. It's the local national drink, and on this walking tour we have the opportunity to have a little local tasting session. Now, some might say it's cruel, but it's damn tasty. You gotta try guinea pig while you're here in Peru as well. It's their national dish, and I loved every mouthful of it. Sorry those pet lovers, but I'll do it again given the chance. There was one last thing that I needed to do before leaving Lima, and that was return to Kennedy Park and feed the cats. They too love guinea pig. Well folks, we're back in Australia now, and we've finished our 2.5 months through South America. It's been an awesome journey. We really hope you enjoyed watching our video.
We had an amazing trip through Peru and Bolivia, and the guys at Peru Hop made it really fun for us. It was everything we planned for and more. They made it, how they promised, safe, flexible, fun.
And speaking of Peru Hop, this is a big shout out to our friend Francisco, who made the journey so enjoyable for us. Mate, you got me totally pissed when we were in Huacachina. You made me lose my hat, and I had to buy this one when we got to Colombia. It's been an awesome journey. Mate, this is a shout out for you. We thoroughly enjoyed our time.
We hope you enjoyed watching this video, and you can also watch our other videos by subscribing to our YouTube channel.
And don't forget, down the bottom there is a whole place for you folks to comment. So we really appreciate whether it's good, bad or ugly. Put the comments on the bottom. We enjoy hearing what you folk have to say about our wonderful journeys. There's going to be more. This is only the second video we've done. We've done one on Cuba. We hope you enjoyed that too. Watch out for our next video. Thank you for watching. We really enjoy seeing those numbers count up and all those likes. Follow us. Remember, travel safe, take photos, and leave nothing but footprints in every country you visit. Be an eco-tourist and be responsible for the places you see.
You can also follow our journey on our site, which is globetrottingcouple.com.